Okay, well, welcome to another installment of the 8-Track Chronicles here. So this next deck that we've got is a Pioneer TP-900 super tuner. So I think it was the very first, or maybe even the second super tuner that was made by Pioneer for car radios. The first one was a TP-828, that series. It's got a tuner in it. It looks a little bit different. It's the knob or the dial is square. It's got a big track change button in the middle. We'll talk about that whenever I get one, but I had one of those, and then I had this exact model but in a cassette. These I think came out somewhere in the late 70s. It was right before, it was the transition between cassettes and 8-tracks, and so this particular chassis was used for both decks, and that's why I ended up getting this one. I had to pay a little bit more. They're a little spendy, but these are very nice decks. The audio path in them is just fantastic. Tone controls are great. They use a pretty common power output stage. They sound good. So, and the tuner's really good. And so it was a big deal about super tuners if you're into that, all the tuner side of it. But it doesn't say that on there. The later ones do, but this is the concept. So, anyhow, this guy, I've already pulled the covers off. So the way this, and I've just gotten into this, I couldn't wait. So I pulled the covers off and I refinished it and did some cleanings. But I'll kind of go through here real quickly. To get the covers off, there's a set of screws on either side. You can see them over here. There's some holes there. The screws are back here in a little bin. But the sheet metal covers, the screws come out, the sheet metal covers come off top and bottom. And then there's a couple screws that hold on this faceplate. So the trick to that is all these knobs have to come off. So you have to pull on them, and sometimes they're frozen on, so you have to be kind of careful. And there'll be times where you think you're going to break it, so you just have to nice, slow, consistent pull with your fingers, and they will start sliding, and you can get them off these spline shafts. Once those come off, then you can go ahead and pull this guy off. And cleaning wise, we've probably been through this before, but I'll just say that the kitchen cleaner, the Lysol kitchen cleaner, and then a little bit of detergent sometimes usually gets everything off of these. A lot of these things are covered with road grime, they're covered with people's cigarette smoke, just dust and dirt and grime. That stuff pulls it off. It doesn't damage the plastics. I have yet to see it do anything to any of these players in terms of the plastics, the plating, the paint, the silk screen. That doesn't say it can't happen. But you want to test it with a Q-tip to see if it's coming off. But I've been pretty lucky so far. So stuff works really well, cleans everything off. A lot of times you're going to get these clear windows, and knuckleheads will come in here and use like Scotch Brights on or whatever they're doing, or somebody just goofs with it and rubs it, scratches the crap out of these things. So these can be, if you can see, these can be pulled out carefully from the back. If you can see it there, it's heat staked, it's glued. You can usually grind that off and just tease it out, and then you can pull this clear plastic lens out, and you can then polish it with Meguiar's. There's different plastic cleaners, but you can get all the scratches out, buff it all up, drop it back in there. You can reheat stake it with a soldering iron if you want to. There's different combinations. Sometimes they'll put a little dab of glue or RTV on it. You're good to go. The aluminum you got to be careful with. This is like a brushed aluminum. I don't know if it's been anodized or clear coated, but whatever you do not use any kind of abrasive pads or polish or anything on this stuff. It's as soon as you touch it, it's going to look worse than if you had done nothing at all. So unless it's just destroyed, which in case you don't care anyway, but just use cleaner on it, get it as clean as you can. Rub it. You can rub it with a cloth, if it's really bad, but just be really careful because it's so fatally easy to make this look like crap, and versus just slightly scuffed up. So don't get too crazy with that. This one, a lot of times the chrome gets this. I don't know how they get this on here, but the chrome a lot of times will either wear away or just reacts if it sits outside. This one's in pretty good shape. It's nice and shiny, so lucky. That looks good. You can, if it's like a display and you're not going to use it a lot, you can take, if you're super, super careful, you can take a brush, dry brush some aluminum or silver paint on there, and you can get close. It'll never look like this, but I've done it. Was a modeler when I was a kid, so I could do it and make it look okay. but it doesn't really last. That tends to wear off, but you can get it back to where it needs to be. This guy, again, stay out of this area. Just use a soft bristle brush. This could just do these buttons. You can go over with the cleaner and a fine soft brush. Same thing for the knobs. Soak these in the kitchen cleaner, toothbrush, clean them up. That'll usually pull everything out. But again, same thing. These are machine turned. They're like a different finish on there, and if you start trying to buff it, polish it with anything, it will look grisly. So I just don't bother. So now this guy, this has got the same old Japanese thing of, solder flux all over it. I have yet to go in here and pull all the flux off. I'll do that on the boards. The rest of this unit, there's lubrication points here. This looks pretty good. I don't think I'm going to have to do too much to it. There's the motor. There's the belt. You're going to have to, I looked at the belt. It's not checked. So I'll pull the belt off. I'll clean it with lacquer thinner or alcohol. See how it goes. Clean the capstan. Clean the deck up like I normally do. Now there's lubrication points in this motor underneath this pulley, which has got a little teeny weeny, I believe, Allen screw. You can pull this guy off and get access to the plane bearing under here, which I'll oil that. Oil the capstan. On the other side, there's a little rubber, I don't know if I'm going to show it here in this video, but yeah, you can see it. There's a little rubber cap, it looks like. I'll have to try to figure out how to get this off. I mean, sometimes, I have no idea what they did. It's just so strange, but it feels like it's rubber, so you can maybe punch a hole in it and put some lubricant out. I do not know. Try to get it off through the sides, maybe. There's a cover here. Anyhow, but that's what the back looks like. There's the audio amplifiers, which are used in a Kenwood ham radio. So these are still available, which is nice because a lot of times they'll blow up if you short them to the ground. Tuner and decoder board, tuners on cans on the other side, switchboard. There's the inside. Yeah, I haven't done nothing to it, but there it is. And we'll go into that a little bit more in a different segment, but there it is. One other thing I wanted to talk about was the housings. Now this guy I resprayed. All of these things have, unless somebody's just completely anal retentive, these all get banged up, and they didn't coat these, and so they spray lacquer. And in this particular case, it's like a, I don't even know, it's a textured finish. It's very bizarre. It's really hard to see. I'll see if I can get close. You can, oh, there you go. You can kind of see it. It's this really strange texture finish. It's almost like a long distance splatter. I can't even describe it, but it makes it such that when if you tried to strip this completely and refinish it, you're not gonna be able to get the original finish on, or if you did, it'd be a miracle, because I don't know what they use. It's something weird. So what I've done, and I did this on military radios, is with crackle finish, I keep that, and then I'll go over it. In this case, I mixed up some special flat lacquer. I cleaned up the rusty spots with the Dremel wheel and just shot over the top of this. Now, this looks pretty good. This is the top cover. It's if you're seeing it from 6 inches away, it looks great. If you get with a microscope, if you're at like a judging contest for restorations, they'd probably piss all over it. But because you can still see the little rust spots. But 6 inches away, it blends in. Looks really good because it's a flat. So, and as you can see, this is what you would see when you were just seeing it for the first time or in a car or something. So I'm pretty happy with that. The other thing I just wanted to point out before I show the next installment on this is this thing. So this is the bracket. It's always nice to get this piece. A lot of times guys would, if they were stolen, or they would take these screws out, leave the damn bracket in the car, take the radio, and now you don't have any mounting brackets. Well, this is great because I got this part, but this is the cool part. This is like a anti-theft thing. You could just slide it out. And I don't know if this was made for this unit or if this is an aftermarket thing, but that's pretty cool. Sadly, I don't have the mating piece to it. So I got that. But I don't really care. I'm just going to unbolt it. I think this was actually a Pioneer thing because of, they did a really good job putting it in. I just cut these connections and it's even the right color. So anyhow, I don't have the mate to it, and there's some kind of spring-load latch, but that was cool. So that's it, and stay tuned when we get this back together, cleaned up, and running. So it'll be kind of cool to see how it sounds.